All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat,
And I'm Eric.
and
And I am
today,
Stan.
sorry, we got a lot of topics to get to today. A little excited.
Someone's very excited.
Well, hey, it's been a couple of weeks. It's been what, a week? We took a week off for Christmas and the holidays, so we're a little rusty. But we have some good topics today. We have the Final Fantasy VII Remake leak controversy. Just to get it up front, we are not going to be spoiling the game any more than already has been released officially. So we're not going to be showing any of the footage of the leak or any of the pictures or anything regarding the plot or the designs. We're not going to be giving our impressions on that because we don't want Square Enix to remove us off the face of the planet. But but also we just feel like, we want to actually talk about what's officially been released. But we are going to give our comments on the controversy surrounding that. Basically, hey, this came out. People are talking about it. What do we think about the fact that, there's been a leak and Square's taking legal action? There is a demo. When are we going to get the demo? That type of thing, right? Then Xenosaga HD, there's been a discussion on Twitter with one of the head honchos that would make decisions regarding this. And basically they said that it got to the market analysis stage, Xenosaga HD collection, and it failed the market analysis. And so Xenosaga HD collection is not happening. Very upsetting, but we're going to get into what we think about that. And then there's been also some rumors circulating about the Switch Pro again. This seems like this is a reoccurring thing, but this has come up again. And then also that kind of ties into another rumor that's been going around where people are believing that there may be a port of Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to the Switch. That would be crazy, but we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to get into what we've been playing over the holidays, kind of talking about just the games we played in our spare time and, anything else cool we want to talk about. And then we have a final question from Luciano, who said, hey, you brought up the fact that, all your favorite games the last decade in the last podcast episode, but you didn't say what was your guys' favorite game of them all, and I'm surprised we missed that. We just did our favorite of each year, but we didn't say which one was the top tier one of, all 10 games. So we're going to talk about that at the end of the podcast episode. So those are the topics we're going to be talking about this week. Let's go ahead and jump into our very first topic here. And this is going to be on the Final Fantasy VII Remake leaks. Now, basically, just to give you guys a quick rundown of what's happened. Again, this is not going to be spoiler. We're not going to be releasing anything that's not already available. And officially, that is. Basically, right around Christmas time, there was some images going around on Twitter of certain people who were able to get a image or a download of the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, but they weren't actually able to play it. And then somewhere between Christmas and New Year's, people were able to hack into it or get it to play, and people started uploading the entire demo of the Final Fantasy VII Remake that they found, right? And then also they were able to hack into the game and pull out like character models for characters later in the game and showing those like unoptimized renders, right? So these aren't, the characters in their context. They don't have the lighting on them or anything like that or any of the dirt or anything. It's just the base model. And people were actually posting a synopsis of the entire script that they were able to find on the game. People were able to post the soundtrack. And in response to all this, Square Enix came down hard and started getting people removed, banned, and just getting all this stuff removed off the internet. And this has kind of created a controversy among fans regarding the fact that this was leaked. Like, is it okay to talk about leaked games? Is it okay to talk about this demo? Is there a distinction between, the people that are talking about the demo and the people that are talking about the stuff that's not even fully rendered? Is there a difference? So people are arguing back and forth about this. They're arguing about, was it appropriate for Square to take legal action, or was it the right thing to do? Are these leaks helpful or harmful to the game? So we want to kind of get into some of that. Just to start us off here, regarding whether these are harmful or not, I I don't know. That remains to be seen whether it actually will be harmful to the sales of the game. But I think that there are past examples of when leaks have happened where it was harmful. And we talked about that on our podcast with Pokemon Sword and Shield. There was all sorts of leaks regarding that, and a lot of them were pretty damaging to Game Freak. I mean, they really showed where Game Freak cut corners with that game. It still ended up being a pretty good game, but that really did kind of get people not so excited about it. And people were signing petitions to boycott the game and everything like that. It did go on to sell, record sales, but, you know, there is that reality there that, especially for a game that they've been working on, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, for so long, they have plans of making multiple games. This is clearly very expensive. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable that, people should play the actual game or at least judge what Square wants to show. Because, if you're looking at character renders that don't have appropriate lighting on them and they're out of context, out of the scene, they're not talking, it's, or, you're looking at the plot on a piece of paper on Twitter, you're not experiencing it, and people are getting upset about it. I can see why Square would want to crack down on this, but I don't know if it's going to backfire. But what do you guys think? Do you think these leaks have been harmful, or do you think it's going to help the game?
I don't think it's going to be harmful at all. Ultimately, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I think anyone who is planning on buying this remake is still going to buy that remake. Everyone has been waiting for it. The reason leaks like this happen to begin with are because people are so impatient, wanting this game so badly. So I don't think that'll affect sales. And really, the mass majority of buyers are still not people who are completely aware that these leaks exist or anything. In terms of if it's okay to spoil or anything, I still say no, just because even though we're going pretty much across familiar territory, like we know what's going to happen, there are still people who are excited to see how the content may be reinterpreted.
Right.
So they don't want to be spoiled on how this vision of the game happens. So I still think it's like, if you're going to say like the bombing mission happens, like we already know this one happens, but say it didn't, but you don't know exactly like what they did to enhance that scene.
Yeah.
So people are excited to see how that is reimagined. So I don't think it'll be very fair to say, oh, but this happened in the story or something like that. So I think there is that very fine line right there. Maybe you can say like the bombing mission is in the game, maybe, but
Yeah.
like don't tell how exactly it changed or what
Right.
they did to change the
Here,
scene. So I still think there needs to be a level of respect in terms of the spoiler territory.
yeah. I mean, I think there's a fine line. I mean, if somebody got a hold of a copy of the demo and they played the demo and they're going to talk about their impressions with the gameplay and, stuff like that, I think that's one thing. But, if you're posting like a bullet point analysis of the entire plot of the first game, and there's people like me that are like really devout fans of the original game, and I'm looking at this bullet point list and I'm like, this plot's freaking stupid. I mean, that I could see where Square Enix might think like, well, okay, you need to play this game in context because
Mhm.
you're reading bullet points, and it would make more sense. It would be more touching. You might actually like it if you experienced it. And I could see Square taking action on those people. But if you got a copy of the demo, like Eric was saying, it's the bombing mission. I mean, it's going to be a little different, but we already have lots of videos of people talking about the E3 demo. I mean, I think those are apples and oranges to me. But Stan, what do you think?
It's kind of a nuanced situation, I guess, like, because with this particular game, like you already mentioned, the basic, I mean, 95% or probably at least 90% is going to be the same story as the one we played, 20 plus years ago. So
Right.
because with the biggest thing with leaks, I would say is like a spoiler, right? Um, nobody wants to get spoiled for like a new Star Wars movie coming out or whatever, you know. So it's kind of the same thing here, but in this case, it's a remake of an old story that we've played. So, like for this game in particular, I don't think the leaks are that harmful. It's mostly, like you said, just people who are very curious, right, to know what all is different in the game and versus what they played many years ago.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to hurt the sales of the game. I don't think it's going to hurt the hype for the game at all. If nothing else, it's going to stay the same or increase the hype because curious people are now finding things, you know, that, and from what I've heard, nobody has like uncovered anything that they think like, oh, this is dumb, or I'm not buying the game now because I found this in the code or whatever. Like, no, pretty much everybody is still hyped for the game. So
yeah.
Just to answer comments real quick, Z Killer says, I'm actually disappointed Square hadn't said anything regarding the leaks. I highly doubt they will. I think they're not going to openly come out and say, please don't look at leaks or something. They might say, like, don't spoil this for anyone or anything like that at most. But I think when it comes to stuff like this, they usually take care of stuff on the back end.
I bet you that there's more people who follow their kind of official Twitter and official social media than are even aware that there's a leak. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
Well,
so like even if they acknowledge it, all they're doing is making it more public that there's a leak. So they're not going to do that.
Well, there's two things though to say on that though. I mean, they haven't publicly acknowledged it. Like I saw like several media sites, you know, like Kotaku, places like that, have reached out to Square regarding that, wanting to know when this demo is going to actually release. And Square's not responding, but they are clearly like taking the stuff down off YouTube. So in a sense, like through their own action, they're acknowledging it. And then Nojima, who's written a lot of the Final Fantasy game, he doesn't come up with it. They give him an idea and then he fleshes it out as a writer. But he stated on Twitter, this is translated straight from Japanese, like Google Translate. So it's a terrible translation, but says leaks can really stomach things. Now I assume in English, what it really means is leaks can ruin things. Leaks can, you know, out of context.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he worked at Square Enix, I guess, but he's not the official marketing arm. Like he's not speaking for Square Enix. He's just speaking on his own behalf. But, yeah, it is kind of weird that they're not at least like saying what they want us to think about this, you know?
I mean, I can imagine that sucks. Like, even if it is a remake of another game, it kind of sucks to see all your work just like exposed out there in the open and
out of context.
People out of especially out of context, and people may be taking it the wrong way, and they're not experiencing it the way you want them to experience it. I can imagine it being really frustrating, but at the same time, my God, how could you put this much information in a demo? It's unbelievable how much content is shown in the data mines of that demo. It's 10 gigabytes.
Yeah.
Well, that's
people are suspecting that it might be like the demo would go up on the store, and then once the game is released, you could play the demo and they would have like a, you know, buy it now, you know, like buy the full game now option within the, and that's why some of the additional information and code is like in that demo,
right?
Because it's built so that at some point they can patch that 10 gigabyte file, right, with the ability to download the rest of the game from the store.
That's interesting though, because my question is, why is this thing in such a large state? Why was it on the PlayStation Store for, I guess, the press or, you know, certain people, right? Why was it on the store like in like mid-December, you know?
Let me ask first, because I legitimately don't know. Do companies like get their games lined up in the digital store like ahead of time and then release it on that day so like nothing bad happens or anything like that?
I think they do. Like I think it's pretty much stored kind of like in a, for lack of a better term, like it's on a in a back room, kind of like in a dark
Right.
store server, right? And then the day that it's supposed to come out, somebody just kind of has to flip a switch and move it from the back room to the front of the store. And they probably do some testing and stuff in that dark server, to make sure everything's working properly, like it can be downloaded,
Right.
can be played, without issues on a console. And then they're like, okay, everything checks out, and then they move it over when it's time.
Apparently, from what I read had occurred is basically like Stan said, they have the spot for these games that are unreleased yet, and there's supposed to be certain security walls that are in place that prevent people from getting to it. And whoever uploaded it to the server just didn't check something in a box, like they left something open, and that's a pretty bad mess up.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that person probably got fired or whoever was in charge of that. But yeah, they made it more easy, I guess, for certain people to get it than it needed to be. But yeah, I mean, I just don't know why such a large file was available in December. I mean, I guess I would have expected, especially if we're thinking the demo's going to come out or the game's going to come out, then we'll get to play the demo if we haven't bought the game yet. That means, we won't get to play the demo until March. What I would have thought if this demo was available in December, at least uploaded, that they were planning on releasing it maybe to like IGN, first week of February, and they would upload, first 30 minutes of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that type
Right.
of thing. And like they start uploading the soundtrack and stuff. And then we would get it like a week before the game comes out.
Well, usually they have a team, like a very small team, that consists of people whose specific job is to make the demo, is to take the content that is given to them and create the demo from it. Like, if you play the Final Fantasy VIII demo, way back when, like when they're on those PlayStation demo discs from you bought other games like Brave Fencer Masashi or something like that.
Right.
What is in the like Dalit mission scene is very different from what is in the game. So it's a lot of creating a demo from like the assets and ideas and such. So what it looks like here is that the demo kind of looks like it seems like a last minute idea. Like, hey, we should put a demo out, even though we didn't hire anyone to create the specific demo for us, so no information gets leaked. And what they look like, they just took like they just cut and paste a section of the game, which requires keeping that data to keep it stable into the lineup, and it just kind of comes off as lazy to me if that's the case.
I wonder if it's more like, I can't remember, was it Eric or Stan that was making the case that, they had this in plan for, play the demo and then this carries over into the main game, and maybe they felt like certain things were easier to just have in the demo than,
That was that was speculation on my part. I don't know that for sure. That was a theory I saw being tossed around.
I mean, they're all plausible theories. It's just, I mean, the one thing we can all agree on definitely is that they screwed up big time, letting the whole like pretty much the entire script of the game and the soundtrack
right.
be in the demo. That was a big no.
Yeah.
Well, from what
there's something I just don't understand about modern demos.
Yeah. From what I understand, at least with the soundtrack, like they were able to pull off like the tracks that were used in gameplay from the demo, right? So they got those songs, but then they accessed the other songs because they were only the songs that were available in the jukebox and a jukebox in the game. And I don't want to go any more into that because I'll spoil the game for someone, but there's a jukebox that you can pick tracks, and it's, other, kind of like the thing in Final Fantasy 15 that would play other Final Fantasy music. So they were able to pull off other tracks from that. So I don't know if what was released was the entire soundtrack or just a large portion, but I guess that's the reason why those tracks were on there, was because it was in a jukebox. So, I mean, I don't know if they'd have the entire game soundtrack, but I guess that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I mean it sounds like it's an oversight both on Square and Sony's part.
Yeah.
Right? Square for having too much data in a demo that, I mean, there's very tech savvy people out there who are gonna data mine your stuff because people are interested, right? Because the hype is so high. But then the Sony side of things, like you said, not having the proper security on that,
It's pretty
on wherever
bad.
that demo got put. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's been, there it is, like to Eric's point, that it was baffling how much information was on there because people were able to pull out how many chapters the whole game is going to be. And now people are speculating about how long the game's going to be. You know, apparently people were able to pull out, cloud and address, for example, and stuff like that. So, I mean, if that stuff's not in the demo, I don't know why, why that was on there, but maybe somebody that is more familiar with that process can enlighten us in the comments. But that is a very strange situation. But when do y'all think we're going to get to play this demo?
Probably this month.
Think so?
At the latest, early February, I think, because they want to. I think either late January or early February. I think they want to keep the hype within a month of release.
Yeah,
I will predict January 31st, because that's the day that the game was released in Japan back in 1997.
seems like a good prediction. So
And since they do everything kind of globally now, usually Square does, they'll just
right.
release it for all regions on the 31st.
You know what? I'll add on to that. I think you're right. It probably will come on the 31st, but because Japan hates us, we'll probably get it on the 4th on Tuesday when Sony updates.
Oh yeah, they update the store every Tuesday. Yeah.
Or like you said, they put in the digital store ahead of time. It's just letting you have access to it. So
y'all
so
are
it could be the 31st for both of us.
Yeah, you guys are kind of itching me towards this now. Like initially, my thought was before this demo, like I'm trying to think what the original plan was, and I do think the original plan was more standard. Okay, we'll give traditional press outlets a copy or access to the demo. Maybe 2 weeks before the game comes out, they can start uploading footage from the game, and then everyone else will get it a few days before the game comes out. But now that people have actually hacked into it, they've played it, people have uploaded large portions of it, lots of people have already seen it, there's this whole drama circulating around it. I think that's probably moved the date closer than it originally was planned, because at this point you might as well just release it. I mean, people are already talking about it and everything. You're letting people that played it dictate what the game is going to be about, or whether it's a good game or not. You might as well just release it and let people make their own decision and experience it for themselves. But I don't know, Stan, I think that's a really good speculation on your part.
I think a month ahead of the game definitely makes sense on top of that, because if someone's interested in buying the game after playing the demo, you at least want a month to collect some money to get that nice collector's edition they have.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
And get the pre-orders in.
That's true. Oh, when's the Kingdom Hearts DLC coming out again? It's at the end of this month, right?
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember.
January
for sure, though.
Yeah, because I wonder if they want some space in between that, I would think, so that people will buy the DLC and then, they'll play the demo. I go, well, it's not a long demo, right? It's not like it's going to take them like a week to beat it.
January 23rd for Kingdom Hearts Remind.
Okay. Well, the demo might actually help sales, because they'll say, oh, like Final Fantasy, there's Final Fantasy characters in this Kingdom Hearts DLC. I think you guys are right.
Level 100 before that DLC comes out. Now that I forgot that.
I don't know. Well, we'll have to see when it comes out. I don't know if there's a level cap or what, but I don't want to speculate about it, because people will think we're spoiling it, because I did see some of what was there, but I didn't see all of it. I kind of trolled out, and then Square removed it. So, but so there's a leak. Do you guys have any other thoughts on it that you want to talk about? Whether or not you thought this was a positive thing, or when we're going to see the demo, or anything else regarding the leak that you want to kind of address before we move on?
I'll just reiterate again, just be respectful to people who do want to be as surprised as much as they can be with this game. So don't go in,
Be respectful. Be respectful. But if you are one of those people that wants to go in completely blind, do not just click on stuff that you shouldn't click on and then complain, right? I saw so many comments. The guy, the YouTuber Spawnwave, he did a video. It said Final Fantasy VII Remake leaks, right? And then like I clicked on it, and then I went down the comments, and people are like, "You spoiled it for me." And I'm like, why would you click on this if you were that concerned about it? But yeah, I mean, don't just openly be talking about it in like the general chat in like a Discord server or something like that. That's disrespectful for sure.
There's definitely places to talk about this. There are plenty of places to, talk about the leaks, and people are going in super detail about it. I mean,
yeah,
it's not hard to find. So
yep.
you can get your
fix.
Your scratch.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. We got a little bit of housekeeping before we move on to the Xenosaga HD Collection market analysis failure. So just to remind everyone, we are media partners with RPGFan.com. So they are a great source for RPG news. They have game reviews, soundtrack reviews. They have 2 other RPG podcasts, Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. We highly suggest you go check them out. They also have a YouTube channel where they're uploading various reviews. Not all the reviews on their website have video reviews, but they're doing more of those, and they're trying to grow that. So we strongly suggest you go check that out. And then as far as our channel, we are planning on doing a Crisis Core discussion still for this month. We're going to let you know further once we have an actual date. And I'm still working my way through that game. I got a little distracted over the holidays with some Witcher stuff, but I'm going to get back to it and replaying the game so I can get my thoughts fresh with the for the discussion. And then we're still planning on doing a Final Fantasy VII PS1 discussion in February to kind of get us excited for the Final Fantasy VII Remake that's coming out in March. And then we're also still planning on doing some kind of impressions, just general impressions of the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC. We're still going to figure out about that. We're trying to figure out when this demo comes out, when we're going to do Crisis Core. So we might kind of move that around a little bit, but I'm definitely going to buy that DLC, so I'm excited to talk about it. And I just want to remind everyone, if you don't want to miss this content, make sure that you are subscribed and also join our Discord server. There's a link in the description. You can go on there, check that out, and kind of discuss things with us. We always appreciate having new people in the conversation, and you can go on there and, tell us if we're idiots or not, I guess, right? Or at least request questions, topic suggestions, that type of thing. So make sure you check that out. All right, so moving on here, we have a Xenosaga HD Collection. It failed a market analysis, so apparently there's no longer going to be an HD collection. Now, this was never formally announced, but there was some Twitter conversation with one of the head executives that would be in place to make this decision, or at least be involved in it. And he basically said that Xenosaga, actually, like the whole collection, was on the table for a remaster or an HD remaster, and they did a market analysis, and it failed the market analysis, which basically, if you're not business oriented, they took their analytics or the data, and they showed that to them, it wouldn't be profitable, or they wouldn't make enough money to do it. So, they're not going to lose money on a project. So basically, they thought about it, they actively considered it, it was in the planning stage, and then they just dropped it because they felt that it wasn't going to make money. I have I'll just give my thoughts on this real quick. I think this is a troll statement. I think we're definitely getting this collection because I don't know how this could possibly fail market analysis. We have Xenoblade Chronicles Remake is coming out next year, right? So that means Nintendo, and I know Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenosaga are different IPs, but it's the same director. It's supposed to be like the same similar ethos, like it's got a similar name, so a lot of people don't know that, right? So Xenoblade Chronicles, that name recognition alone was enough for Nintendo not to just remaster, but remake that game. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was massively successful with their DLC. Torna Country, I think it was called, right? That was really successful. There's been mad rumors about Cosmos coming to Smash. I don't know if that's still a thing, but the fact that people are even talking about that makes me feel like even if like that doesn't happen, if Cosmos doesn't come to Smash, like clearly there's a lot of interest in these games, and I can't imagine that like even like a Steam port or something like that would not be profitable. I think that either this guy's like trying to get people riled up so that like builds excitement, or like I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Because this just seems absurd to me.
I agree with you mostly because RPGs sell on the Switch. Period.
Right.
They do. They absolutely do. The Switch is such a powerhouse for like ports and HD remasters. I cannot believe for a second that Japan and the West, both together, in Europe, would eat this up. Xenosaga is one of the most popular PS2 RPG trilogies out there, and mostly highly rated. I mean, not many people look fondly of the second one, but the series as a whole, people have very fond memories for it, and I guarantee it would sell well.
Yeah.
And people have made HD remasters for lesser known games and have sold really well. Grandia, I would argue, is a less known series than Xenosaga. To an extent, I would say maybe roughly the same. And that sold great.
Yeah.
And they don't really have to do much. They don't have to do a full on HD remaster. They can just they can even keep it 4:3 if they have to, or something of the rather. I wish they don't, but if they need to do like the cheapest possible way to HD remaster it, I still think it's worth bringing out.
Yeah. Well, BioPhoenix brings up a good point. He says, if this is true, what they should do is sell the IP to a company that actually knows how to market a game series like that. Bandai Namco are honestly not good at looking at the small stuff. That's a very good point. I mean, if they don't feel like it's valuable enough to re-release, or it's valuable enough to make another game or anything like that, they feel like it's cheaper for them to just have it on the back burner. Then why don't you just sell it? Why don't you just sell it? Because I could see like Microsoft or somebody being interested in this, and I mean, like there's all sorts of places they could go. But
now, did they remaster any of the Dot Hack games? I think they did re-release the Dot Hack GU games.
yeah,
And
I don't know. Do you think Dot Hack is? I know that's a very popular series for certain audiences, but do you think that is the same? I feel like Xenosaga's got more. Well, I don't know. They made a lot of those games. Where do you guys think the popularity is for Dot Hack versus Xenosaga? I feel like they're in the same wheelhouse.
well,
I think Xenosaga is a little bit more well known.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
yeah, Dot Hack, it was kind of lost in the PS2 era, but I mean, I'm kind of looking like, oh, Dot Hack GU was a remake. It wasn't just
So
it wasn't simply a.
yeah,
So I disregard that. But I think the name Xeno has a lot of weight behind it, especially with Xenoblade, like you said.
hmm
Mhm.
So I think just finding out that these people made a trilogy before that would entice a lot of Xenoblade players who maybe never owned a PS2 or does have fond memories of Xenosaga coming in. Like I said, like this was a popular series when it came out.
Yeah.
So
Everyone was and wanted to know what happened in the third game
yeah.
and stuff like
Well,
it.
here's what needs to happen. Someone needs to come along, and someone needs to go to Sony, buy The Legend of Dragoon, and somebody needs to go to Bandai Namco, buy the Xenosaga series. Somebody needs to go buy the Shadow Hearts games, and then they need to just buy all these games for cheap because these companies don't think they're worth anything, and then they need to just remaster them and then sit back and like revel in their glorious, riches. Because like, how does this game? How does the idea of re-releasing these games not seem profitable for, I don't know what kind of market analysis they did, but like we've been kind of reiterating here, I don't see how it's possible. I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe they thought, well, the first game would be profitable, but by the third game, it's not going to be profitable because, most people are just going to play the first one. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, you cut out there. Do what?
Sell it as a collection.
Yes.
Yeah, as a bundle.
Sell it as one game on the Switch for like $60. I don't know if that would be, I mean, if they don't do much to it, I mean, they, like Eric said, they can just be 4-3. Maybe like, they don't really have to do much. Just make sure it runs as well as it did on the PlayStation 2, at least. It doesn't need to run worse, but I don't know. Stan, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I actually believe Harada here, like the guy who made this tweet, Katsuhiro Harada, because I'm familiar with him from kind of his other stuff. So he's a higher up in Bandai Namco, right? But so he has like a very large role there. But most of his time is spent kind of paying attention and managing Tekken, their Tekken games as a brand. And so he's like very into the whole esports with Tekken and everything, and like going to their competitions and stuff. And he's like very candid, right? Like
Right.
he typically doesn't beat around the bush or like say something to get people riled up. He's very active on Twitter and he tells people exactly what he thinks all the time. So my guess is this is actually true, but I agree with you guys that whatever analysis they've done is probably pretty lackluster or short-sighted. It's not really looking at a big picture. Unless it's way more expensive to remaster this than we think. Like, I don't know if they would have to partner with his name's escaping me at the moment, the creator. Is it Takahashi? Or
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Takahashi.
Yeah, he's working for Monolith Soft right now. I don't know if he has any ownership in Xenosaga, the games that he made for Bandai Namco, and that they would have to actually pay him and other Monolith Soft staff to come on board to remaster the game. Because then I could see it could get very messy, right? If you had to do that and work out like some kind of an arrangement with the original developers.
I'm Googling this now. Does Takahashi own Xenosaga? Because that's a very good question. I mean, obviously he doesn't, but does he have like a share in it that would make it less profitable for Bandai Namco? Because that is a good question, because otherwise this doesn't make any sense.
Maybe he doesn't even own any piece of it, but there's like an agreement that he has to be involved if they make more Xenosaga games or something. Like it could be something like that, or maybe they think that they would have to spend a lot of money in marketing just to kind of remind people that this IP exists.
I think throwing it in Nintendo Direct is all the marketing you need.
Yeah, that's what I would think too.
Yeah, but think about this, right? Like, I don't know about Cosmos and Smash. I know that was just kind of a rumor. If that did happen, that would be awesome. And I think clearly that would raise the popularity for that. But that doesn't even have to happen. I mean, look at Microsoft. They're struggling with like coming out with IPs that people want. Like, are you telling me like Microsoft wouldn't want that, like remaster that game like exclusively on the Xbox?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like they would take that in a heartbeat. They're like bending over backwards trying to get Final Fantasy games on there. They would love that. Like, I can't imagine they can't come up with some kind of deal that would make it cheaper for them. Basically just have Microsoft handle it, and they can collect royalties or something. This just seems insane to me that they're going to keep like remastering or remaking more Tekken games, but they're not. I don't know. I'm not a huge fighter fan, so I guess I don't see the near the draw as remastering this, but it just seems.
No, they are
to
big
me.
games, each one. I don't know if there's some bigger taking you have to because they are bigger games, but I think the worst parts of the game are the localized or anything like that's already taken care of. Like there is already a full English script and full English voice acting and Japanese and stuff like that. So I don't think there would still be too much trouble in that, but I don't know if how much trouble it is to HD remaster, like say a fighting game, to like 3 full blown RPGs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's probably more expensive, I guess, but I mean, if people are still talking about this game like 15 years later, come on.
Yeah, my guess is it's the cost. Like,
which is what
there's
they
something
said,
we don't
yeah.
know about how much it would actually cost to remaster it, because yeah, if they think the game won't sell, then they need to get some new analysts, right? Because it will sell. Like, people are still interested in this franchise. They'll definitely buy the game.
What they should do is just like crowdfund it. Just say, here's how much we want it to cost. Like, you guys just donate, and like if it hits that point, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
I will, you know, obviously they're not going to do that because it would be embarrassing for a publicly traded company to do that. But I don't know. I just want this to happen, and I was really depressed when I heard this, because I thought with all these, you know, a Xenoblade remaster and, you know, the success of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I thought for sure that they would be trying to capitalize on this. Like, hey, you know, it's kind of like when they were, you know, when they re-released Final Fantasy 3 for the first time in North America. It's like, you know, find out the unheard Final Fantasy story you probably never played. Like, I mean, they would have to twist that marketing a little bit, that lingo, but they could use something similar. Like, you liked, I mean, I guess they can't reference one of their competing games, but they could say the creator of the Xenoblade Chronicles games also worked on this or whatever, you know? I mean, there's a lot of pull here, and I think it's just really silly to not think that wouldn't make money. So
I'll give it a few more months, and then if not, I'll play it on the PS2 again.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's in the works. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
We'll see after Xenoblade Chronicles Remaster comes out, right, on the Switch this year. Then they'll see how much it sells, and they'll be like, okay, guys, run that analysis again, right?
Yeah, like, let's see, what do we think this would sell? I mean, this is just crazy. So, but anyways, so that's our thoughts on that. We also had some more news, kind of a little bit more positive and exciting, possible news, anyways. So there's been some talk again about a Switch Pro and a Switch Pro release. And basically there's this market analysis. His name, I'm going to butcher here, but he's in Japan. It's called Sirkin Toto. I just butchered that. I apologize. But he's predicted that Nintendo will release a Switch Pro in 2020, and it's reportedly going to support a 4K resolution and start at $399. Obviously, 4K resolution docked. The reason people are paying attention to this guy is because he's been right about other predictions in the past. He has a history of being pretty insightful. I mean, he predicted the Switch Lite or the Switch Mini. Some people have also pointed out to some of his predictions that didn't come true, right? So, you know, I think that's a little unfair because you can't, you know, he's looking at financial documents and like shareholder meetings. He's obviously going to point to stuff that maybe they drop later or whatever, but
just
Eric, go ahead.
Just a quick verification. The 4K that they're speaking of isn't native 4K.
No,
it's just the ability to blow the game up on a 4K TV,
which
like it will emulate 4K, but not be native 4K.
Yeah, from what I understand, the current Switch model, from what I've seen this in numerous places, already supports the ability to blow it up to 4K. They just restricted it in hardware for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, exactly. I'm glad you clarified that. They're not saying that the Switch games would natively run 4K. They would still be, you know, Breath of the Wild would still be 900p, and they would just upscale it to 4K, so it wouldn't be native 4K. Exactly. But there was a little bit of mixture with this, with another story we'll get to in a minute. But Eric, what did you think about this possibility of a Switch Pro release? We're looking at now some more information has come out, probably mid 2020, if this is true. What do you think?
Well, as a lot of people know, there's always been rumors going about, even before the Switch Lite was announced,
right, that
there would be a Switch Pro and a Switch Lite coming out. Now, the Switch Lite is out, so that was obviously true. And this is actually from the same sources. But they never specified when the Switch Pro would come out. I was skeptical at first because I was thinking to myself, if they really want to make a beefier device, they're already like 3 years into in 2017. So yeah, about over 3 years into the Switch right now, and I would think that like maybe just get a new console at that point. But if we're hitting near the 5 year, but then again, Nintendo has done things like the new 3DS, which had a few exclusive games for it, like the Xenoblade port for it. So I don't think they're above doing that, to be honest now. But I'm a little more optimistic that it's true. I was telling you guys before the podcast is that my hands are not as great as they used to be. So holding a smaller device like the Switch Lite, while it's a great little console, it can take its toll on me sometimes. So I can't really play for but so long. I may just have to switch it to the console and play it on that.
Right.
But damn it, I bought that Witcher 3 to play it portable, so it's gonna be playing it portable only. But
it's just not comfortable for big hands, huh?
Yeah. But I'm a little more optimistic that the Switch Pro can be a thing. I don't think with the technology we have today, we have the ability to create different specs. So it could be possible, like with the PS4 Pro and the PS4, that you could get better specs out of the Pro, but if you have like a regular Switch, it can still run it at those Switch specs. I think if something like this does exist, then companies would just have to go on a similar road where they create an update that supports the Switch Pro functions and that at the same time.
Okay.
So I do believe it's something that can realistically happen. And I'm more optimistic that there may be one coming out this year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold back like trading in any consoles I have right now. And if this one is, then I'll wait for that.
Cool. So in short, you do think this is possible?
I do think it's possible. In short, yes.
Okay. Stan,
I think so too.
I think so too.
And his prediction that it would come out in the summertime also seems to make sense, because if the new Xbox and PlayStation are launching in the fall, there's no way that they would release a Switch Pro close to that same time, right? Because that's not a good look, because most likely even a Switch Pro is not going to be as powerful or beefy as a machine, right, as these upcoming consoles.
Yeah.
So they got to release it in 2020 if they're going to, sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
So that would make sense to me.
See, okay, I'm sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, like they're saying it's going to release at $399. That's the projection, $400, and so it can be a much more powerful machine than the current Switch model. But there's no way that, in my opinion, as far as I know, there's no way it would be something that could match the upcoming consoles at the end of 2020, which would mean you would want to get it out there in the wild, right? Out there on the shelves,
so
selling as many as possible before those new consoles drop, because you're going to sell a lot less Switch Pros. At least conventional wisdom would say you're going to sell a lot less Switch Pro once those new consoles hit.
Here's the thing that I look at, and I've been thinking about this a little bit all weekend, kind of trying to think like, what do I actually think about this? And I've gone back and forth, right? But I think that the Switch Pro could be and probably is coming. I think it's like an 80% thing, 85%. But I'm not sure how I feel about 2020. I do think that a holiday 2021 is more realistic. But I think if they haven't released a Switch Pro by 2021, they're not going to release it at all. I think they're just going to wait for a next console at that point. But okay, so here's why I think this, right? So one aspect of the Switch that makes it appealing, like you were saying, Stan, was there's that console-like experience on the go. And the only reason they were able to do that this generation and it feel like a console-like experience was because the Switch came out halfway through the PS4's life cycle. So like when the PS4 first came out and it was, I can't remember, like $500 or $400 or however much it was, I can't remember.
Right.
There was no way a Switch could have came out at that point and had like the graphics it currently has now. They had to
Mhm.
wait a couple years for the cost of tech to go down. Obviously, the Switch isn't like a PS4, but you know, in order to maintain that same experience, I think that at least the next Switch console is going to be probably halfway into the PS5. And knowing that, I think it's going to be in their best interest to hold out as long as possible for a Switch Pro because they need something to tide them over for a few more years. And I think if they come out with a Switch Pro this summer 2020, yeah, it would sell. But you know, how long are they going to have this Switch Pro out there for? Like holding the torch for another 4 years? I really think that they're going to want to wait longer than that. I mean, and also I think a Switch Pro would make games like The Witcher 3 and The Outer Worlds look and play better, but I don't see the improvement being large enough to let the Switch competently play PS5 ports, even if they're really like low res, like they did with Witcher 3. I don't think it's going to be that much of a jump. So, you know, I just I don't see, you know, where this is going to help them compete with the PS5. And I think if it comes out in 2020, I think there's just going to be too many comparisons because we're going to have E3 this summer with hands-on with the PlayStation 5 probably. So there's going to be lots of like, well, look at what the PS5 does. Can you think the Switch Pro can run that? I mean, you know,
True.
it's going to be lots of negativity, and in Nintendo's favor, the Switch is still the same price it was at launch.
Right.
They haven't lowered it. They haven't lowered the price at all. They came out with the Switch Lite, but they haven't lowered the price at all. I mean, it's still selling really well. So if the PS5 comes out and Switch sales start to decline, okay, well they'll mark the Switch down to like 250 and sales will go back up. I mean, by the time we saw a PS4 Pro, like they had already marked the PS4 down by like $100. So I mean, I, I don't know. I mean, this could be true. I still think it's very much a possibility, but I definitely think that 2020 is a little early. I think 2021 would be their ideal time frame because that will be longer into that'll be a year into the PS5's life. You know, that'll be they'll probably have marked the base model Switch down by then. I mean, just that'll be more time for the tech to develop, so the Switch Pro will be that much more powerful. But if they don't have something out by 2021, I don't think they're going to do it at all. Because at that point, like, what's the point? You might as well just come out with the next Switch. Because Nintendo console life's 6 years. That's it, 5 to 6 years. Like, and they come out with the new consoles. So I don't know.
Well, regardless, I mean, assuming this thing does exist, I think what we can agree upon is they won't sell it around the same time as the PS5 and the new Xbox. So it'll either come before in September, like the Switch Lite did, or it's going to come like in March 2021.
I don't know, man.
I think that's the time frame.
I'm
If they
thinking,
already have one in the works, especially if the rumor is there's a rumor included in there that production of the device is going to start at the end of the first quarter.
if I was Nintendo and the PS5 was coming out holiday season, you know the PS5 is going to cost $500. I think is right around the range you're looking at. If I was Nintendo, I would do a $225 Switch.
Well,
And
Well,
and
the
it would
Switch
probably
Lite.
be the
and my well, no, I would the base model Switch, the one with the dock, I would
Yeah,
lower
yeah.
it to 225, and the like any kind of drop in sales, like because a lot of people aren't going to buy the PS5 the first year, you
for
know.
sure.
There's
Yeah.
going to be 100 million people that are going to still be playing their PS4. So like they'll levitate towards or levitate. They'll run towards a Switch for $225 over a PS5. They'll be like, "Ah, I'll just play this for the next year." You know, I don't see because the Switch has not gone down in price. I just don't see the need for them. I mean, the Switch is selling like crazy. They don't need to come out with the Pro, and the Pro's not going to make it look like a PS5. It's not. It's still going to look like crap compared to a PS5. Like it's not. It's not like, oh, you really need to get this Pro out so then it can compete with the PS5. It's not going to compete. It's not going to compete with an Xbox. It's not going to compete. It's not
I
even going to
agree.
be. It's not even going to be an Xbox One.
I agree. I just think like yeah, if it does exist, right? If they're making a Switch Pro,
yeah.
then yeah, like it's either got to come out several months before the new consoles,
Right.
or like you're saying, like way after, maybe like a year or more after.
Yeah.
Like those two windows kind of make sense to me.
Sure.
And since there's rumors circulating right now that it's coming, I would think it would be coming sooner rather than later.
I see what you're saying. So if it was to come out, like, and you had to have it come out, it would make any sense, obviously, to come out around the time of the other consoles releasing. That if you had to do it earlier, then it would have to be, September timeframe. Otherwise, it's probably much later.
Yeah.
Okay. I can agree with that.
So. And maybe you can have it come out early in 2020. I don't know, summertime, like this analyst is saying.
But
then still discount it by the time it's the holiday season.
But they don't need to do that though, because the Switch has not been discounted yet. That's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, because it could come out this summer, but that's going to be E3. Like, what are you going to be promoting your Switch Pro at E3 during the time frame when they're showing off the next Xbox and PS5? I mean, look how good our Switch looks. Yeah, but look at that PS5. It looks freaking amazing. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, because I can't. The improvement can't be so great that the base model Switch can't play any future games, right? That's the ball and chain. That's the Final Fantasy XIV playing on the PS3 problem, where Final Fantasy XIV eventually had to drop the PlayStation 3 because they said, hey, we want to keep making content, but we got to stop, having the fact that it has to play on the PS3 bog us down, right? So they eventually dropped the PS3. Like,
that's a bit of an ill comparison, because Final Fantasy XIV is a game that is constantly having content added onto it, and the reason they dropped the PS3 version is because the lack of memory in the PS3 version was limiting their ability to create more content from there.
Right.
The bigger, exciting content. Now, if you make a Switch game, and like I said before, there's a PS4 and a PS4 Pro right now. And obviously there's two different specs depending on which console you have. And the same thing can be between the Switch and the Switch Pro, is that developers just create two different specs, like like the new Mario game. If you play on Switch Pro, you can play in 4K if you have it docked to the TV, but if you have the normal Switch, if it's docked, the best it'll do is 1080p or something like that. It's going to be like a PC type of deal.
Yeah, I guess the way I'm looking at it is with the Pro version, the reason you would come out with a Pro is to sustain the life of the console a little bit longer, and until you can come out with the next console, right? That's what Sony did. There was all this pressure to come out with the PS5, and Sony was like, we do not want to come out with a PS5 in 2018, right? So we're going to come out with a PS4 Pro. It's going to be marginally more powerful. It can play things kind of in 4K, but not really. And, a general performance boost. And we'll discount the main PS4. And this will give us a couple extra years so we can release the PS5 when we want to. And to me, that's why you come out with a Pro console. And the fact that, like, the Switch has not seen a decline in sales, it's still the same price it was at launch. And it's I don't know, man. I just don't see it. If it did happen, I wouldn't be surprised, because Nintendo comes out with crazy stuff. I mean, the Nintendo Labo was the thing.
Nintendo does not normally mark down their consoles until the very end of generation, and like they're moving on. They are moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because as far as I remember, between the 3DS and the new 3DS, the 3DS didn't drop in price.
Yeah. Well,
after that, the 2DS stayed its own same price also.
I think what we could see, and that's a good point. I do think if you want to look at like the portable consoles, because this is kind of weird. We don't know what to expect because it's a console and a handheld. But I do think that they're going to continue on with this like slow iteration of changes that we've seen, right? So the new Switch that came out that had a longer battery life, they didn't really announce that. It wasn't really a thing. It just people kind of noticed this new thing was coming out, but they weren't like making trailers about it. It wasn't like, somebody from Nintendo was sitting down with like IGN to talk about the new Switch. They kind of just released it. And I think we're going to keep seeing stuff like that, or maybe like we might see another Switch that comes out that's got like a little bit longer of a battery life, maybe a slightly sharper display. But I don't know. I'm still on the back burner about the Pro system in my mind being, something that's a tech upgrade, something that could, possibly make games like, like the Outer Worlds and Witcher 3 run a little bit better, like a little bit cleaner of an image, upscale it to 4K, like maybe not that game. Well, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, the rumor is mostly that it has a much more powerful processor.
Yeah. Well,
that's the biggest rumor about it. I think structurally, it will probably be the same because they probably still want to sell the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
And don't want to change the Joy-Cons because that would be like that'll probably be really confusing.
Well, do you think
the market? I think it would retain the same size.
Because I question how much more powerful can it be, because they don't want to be in a position like they had with the 3DS where there's like exclusive games coming out only for that version of the thing, right? You don't want Switch Pro games only being able to be played on the Switch Pro, because then it's another console.
Well, it was a little bit of an issue with the 3DS back then because they didn't really have the technology means on those small cartridges the size they were to do like two different versions of the game in one cartridge for like Xenoblade when that came out.
Right.
So, but they do now. You can put two different specs of the game, especially if the rumor is true that they're offering bigger cartridge sizes.
Yeah.
To the games that you can easily put like, if it's a bigger game that's worth doing, you can put like different spec versions in it, and every company is not obligated to make a Switch Pro version on top of that. So
yeah. We'll have to see. I mean, yeah. I think we're in agreement that a Switch Pro model is coming out. I just don't see the need for it yet. But if it did come out this year, I wouldn't be surprised. One thing that is kind of fueling these rumors as well is, well, Stan, do you want to kind of talk about this Red Dead Redemption 2? I don't know what you want to call it, a leak or rumor that's going around.
Sure. Well, someone was digging around in the code for Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PC, and they found an image that looks like a Switch controller, a Switch Pro controller. And so that has kind of fueled rumors that there will be a Switch version of Red Dead Redemption 2. And it's just it's a texture. It's not even like a real photo of a
Switch controller.
Pro controller. Yeah, of a Pro controller. It's just a kind of like a sketch, like an outline. And
this was in the PC version, right? They found that?
Yeah, they found it in the PC version of the game. So now there was an online retailer called Instant Gaming, which I believe is a Spanish online retailer, that has actually put up a picture of Red Dead Redemption 2 for Switch and to be able to pre-order it, essentially. There's been nothing from Rockstar or anything confirming this. So this is very firmly in the super unconfirmed rumor camp. Like, there's very little to go off here.
Will be
real quick. Didn't the retailer that posted that, they also had Bully 2 listed from Rockstar as well?
Bully 2, a game that does not exist and has never been announced.
Yeah. I will be very, very impressed if they somehow got Red Dead Redemption 2 on here. I wouldn't be surprised if they put Red Dead Redemption 1 on the Switch, because they put LA Noire on it, so I don't see why they wouldn't put like GTA 5 maybe, or Red Dead Redemption 1. Red Dead Redemption 2 though, that's a pretty powerhouse game. That's a more powerful game than specs wise than Witcher 3.
Yeah, everyone's talking about they got Witcher 3 to run on the Switch, which is impressive. It does run on the Switch. You can play it. I've put 80 something hours, 90 hours into the Switch versions thus far. So very playable. Doesn't look great, but very playable. So that is a point to be had. But like Eric's saying, Red Dead Redemption 2, that's like a much newer game. That was like state of the art on like the PlayStation 4. So that would be very impressive. But one thing I'm looking at this is I do think they could get a form of the game on the Switch running like they did with Witcher 3. I think it would be really ugly. It might not run very well, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not sure how committed Rockstar is to getting the game to run favorably on the Switch because like there was a ton of work that went into getting The Witcher 3 to run on the Switch. I mean, if you saw some of the behind the scenes with the developers, they were just like nitpicking different like troublesome areas over and over and over again, trying to get the frame rate up. I mean, people were pointing stuff out at E3 or not E3, the Nintendo Direct, and they're coming back and like fixing some of the stuff people saw in the trailers and they were putting a lot of work into getting that to run. So I'm not sure where Rockstar is in this, whether they're going to have it in them to get like an amazing version of the game on there. Cause I could see this being a train wreck too.
There is one way you could get this on the game, and Capcom has already done something like this.
What's that?
It always has to be online and being streamed.
Yeah.
They do this with Resident Evil 7. I'm not sure if here in the West, but definitely in Japan. They have it's for the Switch, but you have to stream it. You can't play it directly on your hardware. So it would maybe be like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have been speculating like because of the SD card size, right? For this game would have to be enormous because the PS4 version was like 2 Blu-ray discs worth of content, right? And,
one a playable disc and an installation disc.
Yeah, and they were able to condense The Witcher 3 and all the DLC onto a 32 gigabyte card, but they had to do a lot of work. They simplified they had to lower the quality of a lot of the audio, so a lot of the dialogue. It's still good, but it's not as boomy as it is on the PS4 PC version. The audio is a lower file size because they've kind of lowered the quality on it. It's still perfectly fine, but it's not, as immersive as it is on the PC version. I mean, the textures are clearly not as detailed. I think that was more of them trying to get the frame rate up to speed, but they've clearly made certain concessions to get that game onto a 32 gigabyte card. And this game's much bigger. So I don't know if Nintendo's going to cut a deal with them to have like a 64 gigabyte card that they don't have to, pay to have. Cause I mean, these game developers, they have to pay for every single SD card with the game on it. So
even 64 gigabyte, you would have to really, really compress that game.
Yeah, and they can't have you download that onto your Switch. I mean, I don't like I have a 250 gigabyte SD card in my Switch, which is pretty big for a Switch, but that the download Red Dead Redemption 2 onto my Switch, that would I don't know how big that game is, but that would take up an enormous portion of that, So
another thing that doesn't make sense to me is they haven't even Rockstar hasn't even ported Grand Theft Auto 5 to Switch, and that's like their cash cow game, right? If there was any game that they were going to bring to the Switch, surely it would be Grand Theft Auto before they planned a Red Dead Redemption 2 port. Not only would it be easier, right, since Grand Theft Auto 5 is a previous, it's like a cross-generation game, right? It was on the previous generation and also this one. Like, that would seem to suggest that the Switch has a much better chance of handling that type of game, right? Rather than Red Dead Redemption 2, which needs 2 Blu-rays. So, and the fact that that's hasn't happened yet makes me think that Rockstar really just isn't focused on the Switch.
Or any of the other Grand Theft Auto games, right? As far as I know, none of the other Grand Theft Auto games have been ported to the Switch either.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, both GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 have online modes. Are you going to support these online modes through the Switch?
Yeah.
That's a big question in itself. So, I mean, I think these games, I have my doubts. Like I said, I would be very, very impressed they somehow got Red Dead Redemption 2 on the hardware, not streaming it. But I really have my doubts.
Well,
Mhm.
it's
This being a thing.
this particular rumor's gotten a lot of fuel because it's kind of hit the right time, right? We had all this talk about the Switch Pro, and then this Red Dead Redemption 2 thing came out. So people are like, well, a Switch Pro would definitely run the Red Dead Redemption 2 better, which, yeah, I'm sure it would. But, this website's been not the best in the past. And then also, but still, I'm willing to give it credit because it is like, I'm sure they're not just putting anything on the website, right? But the other thing too that I think is less of a credit towards this being true is, okay, they found Red Dead Redemption 2 like a Nintendo Switch controller image and the Red Dead Redemption 2 textures on the PC. Well, that could have just been like them planning for support if you wanted to use
The controller.
the controller for the PC version. It doesn't
It could be.
mean, they're that they're like, oh, this just snuck through into the PC version. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's much more reasonable to me. I don't know
Who
why
knows
this
why it's there.
I don't know why this website's putting that on their that it's coming out on Switch, but I mean, that is how we found out about The Witcher 3. Websites were reporting look forward to this coming out for sale soon, and like it wasn't announced yet. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely like, I don't know, 10% likely, 90% not happening, in my opinion.
Dude, that would be quite the announcement though, if like the Switch Pro came out like around the same time as the PS5 and the Xbox. They'd be like, oh, can the Switch Pro run all these PS5 games? No, but it can run Red Dead Redemption 2. Like,
Yeah.
like people would be like, well, that's pretty impressive, actually.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah. It would probably look like utter crap, but anyways. Eric, did you have anything else you wanted to comment on this?
No, not really.
Okay. So we have our next topic here. What we've been playing over the holidays. Eric, you want to start us off here?
Not much. I've just been playing Witcher 3 on the Switch, and I did play a little bit of the Star Wars Fallen Order. Haven't gotten too far into that yet. I pretty much played what was essentially the first stage of that game.
Yeah.
Or like did the intro stage and the first stage type of deal. It's fun so far. It feels a little disorienting with a 3D map, but the combat does feel good, at least. So it does seem pretty fun, and I'll probably put more time into it. But I've been playing with some emulator stuff with my controller and everything. So
nice.
There's been that also. But besides that, I haven't done too much. Obviously, we were talking about before. I got the VR headset.
Well,
only thing I have on it is the Beat Saber right now, which is really fun in itself. That is that's a great workout game.
how do you feel about the VR though? This was for the PS4, right?
No,
Oh, you got the
for PC.
okay. You got the Oculus Rift then.
No,
Which one did you get?
Samsung HMD Odyssey. It's
the Odyssey. That's right. Okay.
It's not the best one, obviously. It runs 1080p at most on the headset, but it's definitely more than serviceable for what I want to do with it.
Sure.
And I don't even have a 4K PC anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I mean, if you look inside of it, it looks great. The video.
Do you find yourself getting sick playing it? Because I know some people have said they had that problem where they got a little woozy playing VR games.
No, not really. It's what's the best way to put it? I've only played one game so far, so I can't say if I'm playing say maybe more like a sit down type of game. Like I'm definitely going to get that Half-Life Alyx game when it comes out for sure.
That looks really cool.
And I don't know if that'll get me to the point where, because even I usually have the headset on for about, when I play Beat Saber by myself, about 20 minutes before I at least take it off for a few minutes to like like clean my face or clean the inside of it before I put it back on. So I do give myself resting points. I'd say about, if I was playing it full time, probably about 20 minutes or so.
Huh.
I take it off for just like a few minutes.
Yeah, the only experience I have with VR is I have the it's like a it's some kind of a VR thing that you connect your phone up to. It was pretty cheap. I don't know. I won it in like a white elephant thing at my old job. And I didn't play any games or anything like that because I figured it wouldn't even be worth it. But just watching Netflix on that was pretty cool because it had this thing where like you would sit in a movie theater like seat, right? And then like it would be like playing Netflix on this like giant screen. And like I couldn't believe how much it made me feel like I was sitting in a movie theater, like, you know, just looking around and like the seats with like the dark lighting and stuff. It just made me feel like I was like actually in a movie theater, you know, watching Star Trek. You know, it was pretty cool. So I can only imagine, you know, that must be a really cool experience as well. So, Stan, what have you been playing?
So yeah, over the holidays, played a lot with family and friends mostly. So a lot of multiplayer stuff. Got to play some more Smash Brothers. You know, dust that off.
Oh, that's what's up.
And yeah, my family member got Dragon's Crown Pro for Christmas, which is a port of a PS3 game. Right, it's like a kind of a remaster version for PS4. It's like a RPG beat 'em up kind of side scrolling game, right, left to right, and similar to kind of the old school style games like Ninja Turtles or X-Men, I guess you could say, but it's like in a fantasy setting. It's by the same company that made Odin Sphere, so it's a little more beat 'em up though than RPG.
But it's kind of in that same graphical style as Odin Sphere.
Yeah, it's in the same graphical style.
Dude, that's a pretty. I really like that aesthetic.
Yeah, this game in particular, though, just be warned. It the way it animates some of the female characters, you know, the art style is
Uh-oh.
very fan servicey. I'll just put it that way. So
Well,
if you're thinking about getting this game,
that
just
may
do
be.
your research. That is a deal breaker for some people. So if that's you, make sure you look into it.
I think that is
rush out.
also a deal maker for some people.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So,
Um,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I mean to cut you off.
Oh, and other than that, it was Crisis Core. But was playing some of that to get ready for our discussion on it later. Yep.
Very cool.
Mhm.
So, I thought I was going to get more gaming done, and I got a lot of gaming done over the holidays because I had some time off, but it wasn't nearly as diverse as I thought it was going to be because I pretty much spent most of that time playing Witcher 3 on the Switch. That's a great game. Like, this is only my second time playing the game. So good God, is it long? But I was basically like gameplay wise, I was very like interested in it. Basically, I got the game for Christmas. So you can see how many hours I put in since Christmas. Because I'm nearly at the 90-hour mark. So I've had some time off from work and that's basically what I've been doing. But gameplay wise, like it plays pretty well. Like it's a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. They clearly put a lot of work into that. The only thing is it's a dynamic resolution, meaning depending on, you know, how many NPCs are on the screen or, you know, whatever's resource intensive at the moment, the frame or the resolution goes from 540p all the way up to 720p. So it kind of goes back and forth. So when you go out into the open world part and you start riding your horse, riding Roach down, you know, through the hills and stuff, like, dude, it starts to look really bad. It starts to look like a water painting, almost like everything's just like bleeding together, but it's still very playable. And, you know, especially when you're in towns and like inside like buildings and castles and stuff, like, and it goes up to 720p, it looks really good still. I mean, obviously not as good as on the PC, but, you know, the textures have all been simplified. So, you know, it's not quite as detailed and everything like that, but I mean, it's very playable. I've been playing the crap out of it. One thing I would point out, if you do buy this version, there's an optional update. You have to go into the Switch and choose to update. And once you do this, you'll be able to go into options, and then you'll be able to turn off, if you want, the motion blur and the regular, just another option that says blur. If you turn those off, I find that it's just a little bit sharper, and it's much more, it looks much better. I prefer it that way. A lot of times with these games, they'll put that blur on when they're not as confident with the anti-aliasing and stuff, and it'll kind of take the ugliness off the edge. But I much prefer a sharper image, and I'll just deal with, the occasional like pixelation or noise or whatever. I don't care. I would much rather have like a much smoother image. So definitely recommend that. But one other thing that I've been doing also is I've been looking at this for a long time. I was looking at this thing called the M cables. And basically what it does is it's got a microchip and the HDMI cables, and it provides anti-aliasing and higher quality upscaling to games on any console. And I've been looking at some of the results, and some of it's pretty good. Like it looked really, really good. And so I thought over the holidays, I was like, you know what? I've been looking at this for like a year. Let me just buy it. And I saw they came out with a new version called the M Classic. And this will actually higher quality upscaling, color texturization, and then also it'll upscale your games to 1440p if your TV supports it. There's not that many TVs that support 1440p. They might support 4K, but not 1440p itself. Luckily, my TV does. And like, dude, some of these games on the Switch, like it looks really good in 1440p. The only thing that you have to do that's kind of weird is you have to look up what is the native resolution of the game you're playing. So for like The Witcher, the native resolution is basically 720p. And so I have to lock the Switch at 720 in the settings and then let the M Classic upscale it, because it's got a much higher quality upscaling ability than the Switch does, because the Switch is trying to do multiple things, right? It's trying to play portable mode. It's trying to, have Netflix on there. It's trying to do all these things. So it's not going to, they're not spending $100 or whatever to just devote totally to the upscaling. So you have to look at the native resolution of the game that you're playing. But once you lock it down to where it's supposed to be, Jesus Christ, like it looks so much better. Like I was really impressed with the way it looks. I was trying to take some photos of it and post it on Discord, but by the time my phone reads it and then I put it on Discord, it just doesn't do it justice. I wish I could record game footage, but my capture card will only record at 1080p. I can't record at 1440p. So that's kind of disappointing, but it makes like 3D games. It makes them look so good. It makes Skyrim look amazing. I was doing it on Dragon Quest. It really cleaned that up and like really kind of sharpened those edges. So it wasn't all like just shaky on the outer edges of the face and everything like that. It's really made a lot of these games look a lot better. So that's been kind of what I've been doing over the holidays, Witcher 3, and kind of experimenting and playing around with that. But it's been a lot of fun. So anyways, recommend the M Classic if you have a 1440p monitor.
How much is that cable though?
$100.
Okay, so
yeah, but it works with any console. Like it's kind of cool because you could use it with a PS4 Pro, right? And you could just cap your PS4 Pro at 1080p and benefit from the performance boost, because the PS4 is not trying to upscale to 4K anymore. It's just playing at 1080p, so you can get much more solid frame rate. And then it's got super high quality upscaling, so it's going up to 1440p, not 4K, but it's a good compromise. It looks better than it does at 1080p, and it runs better, right? A lot of people have been saying, hey, use it on GameCube or the Dreamcast. It really makes those games look really good. I don't know about that. I didn't try it on there, but dude, I tried it on Final Fantasy 13 on the PlayStation 3. Jesus Christ. Like this game was like, dude, it like looked really good. I was like, wow, like this looks like this could almost be a PS4 game now. Obviously not AAA PS4, but it just looked really good. So I'm really happy with it, but I could see why it's not for everyone. So
The only console that has a real problem with like converting to higher resolution is the PS2. If you hook that up into anything,
Yeah.
game Dreamcast, consoles like Dreamcast and GameCube actually like work surprisingly well.
Yeah, but I mean, dude,
To my
I'm telling
knowledge
you, if
on
you
it.
look at the difference, like it's night and day. Even from like the Switch 1080p and then this 1080p, like it's so much cleaner. Like it's because if you think about it, your TV will upscale an image, right? But what does it better? Does your TV upscale to 1080p better, or does your PS4 Pro? I mean, like there is, differences, I guess. But yeah, you do bring up a good point. The GameCube and Dreamcast already had good footing to begin with, so yeah. As you can tell, I'm real passionate about this.
No, that I had no idea about this. I'm interested now.
Yeah. Eventually, I'm gonna maybe record some footage just so I can kind of show some people on Discord the difference, because it does look really good. But it's kind of whetted my appetite for a Switch Pro, because it's not quite a Switch Pro, but I am getting a much cleaner image, so it's really cool. But on a separate point, last week we talked about our favorite games of the last decade, our RPGs of the last decade, and we did all of them for every single year. And for some reason, we did not talk about what our favorite RPG was of the entire decade. Like, of the 10 games we picked, which one rules them all for us? And so someone pointed this out on Discord, and I was like, God, why did we not think of that? So I felt like we needed to kind of address that. So, Eric, what is your favorite RPG of the last decade?
I was thinking about it, then I did have something in my head, but then I remembered, hey, Final Fantasy XIV came out in this era. So obviously that, and you have heard plenty of times why I think that. So I'll just leave it be from there.
Okay.
Go out and play it. It's great. Best RPG of the decade.
Cool.
There's a lot of history behind it.
Stan, what was it for you? What's your...
For me, I haven't played a lot of the great RPGs, so it's a lot easier to narrow down
right.
which RPG was the best for me. But for me, that would be Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, the original. And so I'm very much looking forward to the remaster on the Switch.
Or the remake.
The remake? Remaster? Whatever it is.
Well, I feel like
it's coming out.
Remaking the arts. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I talked a lot about that on the previous podcast. The game is just hits all the right notes for a JRPG, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I was thinking about this. And I was so torn because I would like my top three was definitely Witcher 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, and then Xenoblade Chronicles. But I feel confident with Xenoblade Chronicles being in the third spot. I was really conflicted between Witcher 3 and Horizon Zero Dawn. I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn has better gameplay, more exciting gameplay. Witcher 3's gameplay is good too, but Horizon Zero Dawn, I felt like it's just adrenaline pumping good. And then, but I feel like Witcher 3's got a much better story trees. It's a much better story overall, much more satisfying. And so I think just because I am a story guy, I think I have to decide with The Witcher 3 for the last decade. I might be a little biased because I've just spent 90 hours playing it on the Switch. So I might be a little biased in that regard. Maybe if you hit me up in a couple of months, I might say something differently. But yeah, for right now, that's where it stands with me. Probably next year I'll have something different, but that's where I am right now. So
that's the thing with top tier list stuff, everything. Your mind changes every week depending on what you're playing. I'm in the Witcher craze right now, but next week I'll be in the Castlevania craze.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Whatever Final Fantasy I'm currently playing, usually that's my favorite one. If I am playing one, I'm just like, man, this is a great game. This might be my favorite. Will that stand the test of time in your memory? I guess that's where it matters. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. I think we did pretty good. An hour and a half with basically 5 or 6 topics. So we will have another podcast out next week. We will be back to our usual schedule, barring anything that may pop up with our own lives here. But just a quick reminder, we are going to be doing our Crisis Core discussion. So if you want to share your thoughts, make sure that you are joining our Discord server and that you're talking about that with us. We also got other topics on our Discord server. We've been kind of chatting about the Witcher show and some things like that and some other TV shows as well. So a lot of fun on there. Make sure you join that. But other than that, we will see you all next week. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Take care.
See you next time.